Welcome to today's session where we discuss issues relating to property transaction. Welcome to Ascent Realty Show. This is Property Matters, where we discuss all issues relating to property, whether developed or undeveloped. As always, this show is brought to you by Ascent Realty and supported by Ascent Radio. I'm your anchor for today. Destiny Unuate Ijibo is my name. So today, as we always do, we are going to be discussing another very interesting topic. Every day we bring on one topic or the other that interests you, that discusses those things that bother you the most. So today we are having another very interesting topic, and the topic is impact of foreclosure laws on property values and ownership. Impact of foreclosure laws on property values and ownership. First, we are going to be discussing what foreclosure means. You have heard of foreclosure at one time or the other. What does this term really mean? Now, foreclosure is a legal term which describes a procedure that is undertaken by a lender, who is also known as a mortgagee, to take over the property. That is, it is a judicial procedure taken by a lender to take over a property that was used as a collateral for money given out to a borrower, who in this case is referred to as a mortgagee. Now, in this situation, the mortgagee, who is a borrower, gives out his property as security. Let's say Mr. A owns plot C, Adeniyi Jones. He decides to take a loan from one of the financial institutions in Nigeria. In the course of that, taking that loan, he decided to use his own house as security. That becomes the mortgaged property. Now, Mr. A, who is giving out his property, is the mortgagor, while the bank or any financial institution that is giving the property to and getting money in return is the mortgagee. When Mr. A fails to repay that loan which the financial institution has given to him, the bank then takes a legal step, that is a legal procedure, to take over that property. And that procedure that the person takes, or the financial institution may take in that circumstance, is known as foreclosure. So foreclosure then means preventing the person who originally owns the property from recovering it. Now, the position of the law is, when you give out your property as security or collateral, when you are taking a loan, you can recover that property at any time as long as you pay the money that was given to you. For instance, you took a loan of 20 million naira from Bank B. After you took the loan, the expected period of repayment was 6 years. At the end of 4 years, you have the money, decided to repay. Or at the end of the 6 years term, you decide to repay the money. You can take back your property at that point in time. Now, even if the time has elapsed and this person has not taken over the property, you can still go there and pay the person. Okay, this is what I owe you. I want to pay the money so that I can get my property back. So whatever agreement you signed at the point of giving your property out to him and taking the money from him, you also sign him discharging you that, okay, I have paid, or the financial institution in this instance will be the one to write that, okay, I've received money from Mr. A, who gave me his property as collateral or security, depending on the term you are using, and I'm releasing the property back to him because he has paid the money which he owed me or which he borrowed from me. So that step which the financial institution will take, say, okay, since you have failed to pay my money, I don't want you to pay my money again. I'm taking over this house which you used as security. That is what is known as foreclosure. In simple terms, foreclosure means preventing the original owner of a property, who is a borrower, from getting back his property in lieu of the money that you gave to him, which it now seems as if the person sold the property to you. So that's what foreclosure means. Now, when does foreclosure arise? That's the question you may want to ask. When will someone foreclose me? When will someone prevent me from recovering the property I gave to him as security for the loan I took from him? You need to understand here that foreclosure is one of the legal terms that used to describe the steps that someone who borrowed your money can take. The person can decide to sell your property, which is one of the options. You can decide to take over the property, that's possession, just take possession of the property, manage the property until he gets his money back. Let's say, for instance, you have a bank who has decided to take over a particular property, let's say shopping complex. After taking over that shopping complex, instead of selling the shopping complex off, he decides to manage it. He decides to be collecting rent on the property until the amount which he has given to the mortgagor is fully repaid. Let's say the rent paid on the shopping complex is 100 million at the end of each year, and this person, you are owing the financial institution the sum of 300 million. The financial institution can decide to take over that property for a period of 3 years if they will be patient enough. They can decide to take over that property for a period of 3 years, collect rent for that period, that is possession. But they also have another option, which is to prevent you entirely from getting back that property, which is foreclosure. Now, foreclosure will arise when you have defaulted in payment. Let's say it was for a period of 3 years. After 3 years, you failed to pay. Now, they have made demands, which means you are now in default. The right of sale, like when you are going to have the option of selling, has arisen, and when it arises, it means you have failed to pay. That's when it arises. Now, it becomes exercisable when you are giving due notice. Let's say you are the financial institution in this circumstance. You are giving due notice to the borrower. Please, you promise to pay your money so time, and this time has elapsed. You are still not paid. What is the situation? I'm giving you between now and so time to repay based on the agreement we had when I gave you this money. After you have done all of that, then the person still failed to pay, then the power becomes exercisable, just like in other steps if you want to sell the property. So also is foreclosure. When all of these things have happened and this person still failed to repay, then you can take the step to foreclose the person from paying. So that's how the foreclosure may arise depending on the circumstance and arrangement. There are some cases where you may not have foreclosure clause in the agreement. As a financial institution, if you want to take over a property at any time, you also need to ensure that that foreclosure clause is inserted in that mortgage agreement that you are having with the mortgagor. Now, there are two stages in this foreclosure. First is order 9C. Now, what this means is temporal. 9C is just for a period of time. Now, during this period of time, which usually 6 months, depending on the order of the court, during this period of 6 months, you have the right as the mortgagor to recover that property. What this window lets you is, if you owe Mr. A or financial institution A the sum of 10 million naira, you can then approach him, please, I want to pay this money while that order 9C is still subsisting. That is, court has said you can take over this property if this person fails to pay. Now 6 months has passed that they give. You are able to pay that, or it has not passed. Let's say it's just for a period of 5 months and 2 weeks, and you came up with the money and you pay the person, then that order 9C will be discharged, which means they will tell the person you cannot take over this property since he has satisfied the debt. Now it becomes absolute, that's order absolute. I told you there are two stages, one is order 9C and the other is order absolute. Now under order absolute, the period the court gave you, that's a period of 6 months, that please, Mr. A, since you said you borrowed money from this person, that has been agreed, and the court has found that you actually took the money from that person, you will fail to still pay after that period that was given to you. It's like a grace period, that period of 6 months. When the period expires, then the court cannot make the order absolute. The financial institution, who is the mortgagee in this instance, will pray the court, will ask the court, please, this person has failed to pay even after the period that was given to him as a grace period. I want you to make this order absolute so that I can become the true owner of the property, the legal owner of the property. That's how order absolute work. It means a period of 6 months has passed, which the court granted the mortgagor to redeem his property. So it is that right of redemption that is prevented by that other absolute. You can no longer come back to tell the court, please, I've gotten the money, I want to pay now. That will not be the case. You will now have to approach the financial institution or the mortgagee, as the case may be, to redeem that property, and that redemption will not be buyback. You are buying back that property, no longer redemption. Excuse me. Now, how does foreclosure law impact property values and ownership? I told you first that once foreclosure happens, the mortgagee takes over that property. Now, if the law states that upon making the order absolute, this person is going to take over this property. Once he takes over that property, it means you, who is the original owner, you no longer have ownership right over that property. You have lost your property. You, who was a landlord before, you then become a tenant. You now have to move out of that apartment. Your ownership right over that property becomes lost because of this foreclosure law. Now, another impact that this foreclosure law has on property values is that once property has been taken over by the person who has foreclosed you, the value of that property may not be ascertainable. How? Now, when a property is taken over, the person is just interested in getting his money. That's all he's interested in. He's just going there, take over the property. He may not need to do property evaluation again, because there are property valuers who need to value the property to know the actual cost of that property based on market trend. But that person may not go that route, so you may not get the true value of the property. Let's say, for instance, your property was worth 10 million naira as at the time you took the loan, but over time, after 5 years or 3 years, because of massive development that is going on in that place, property prices may have increased. But because you have been foreclosed, they may not be able to ascertain what the current value of your property is, because they chose to foreclose you from redeeming that property. Another thing is, foreclosure makes homes that are foreclosed to be sold at discounted prices. Like I said earlier, when I was talking about how in the past, these persons are only interested in getting their money back. If your house is worth 50 million and what you owe them is 40 million, their target is to sell to recover that 40 million, not necessarily selling at 50 million, because their own is to consider their interest first. They are not interested in whatever you are concerned with. That's not their problem. Theirs is to get their money back. Now, you understand that the property has become theirs by the order absolute that was given by the court. Since the property is now theirs, they can do whatever they want to do with the property, and they can dispose it at any amount, because they are eager to get their money back. They can decide to sell it off at any point in time. Also, there will be increase in supply of houses. How does this work? Okay, maybe at the particular location, just 2 houses were newly developed, and maybe by property developers, they decided to put up those property for sale. But because of foreclosed homes, if there are so many homes that were foreclosed in some area, it may affect the prices of property in that area. Let's say, for instance, in a street where you have about 100 houses, about 10 of them have been foreclosed. Those 10 that have been foreclosed, the persons who foreclosed them or institutions who foreclosed them, they are interested in getting their money back, not the current rates property are sold in that area. If they are selling those houses at discounted rates, it will impact on the original owners in that area. Let's say I own a plot of land in that particular street, and I have placed a price tag of 200 million on my land. Then the person who has foreclosed the original owner in one of the properties around that area said to sell his own at 50 million. My bargaining power would have been reduced, because persons now have option of choosing a foreclosed home over mine, which is going for almost half of the amount that I am requesting. Therefore, I will be forced to reduce whatever amount I have decided to sell my property earlier. That's how it impacts on property value. You also understand that once there is increase in supply, then the prices of goods will drop automatically. Also, when there is high demand and there is low supply, there will be increase in prices. But because of foreclosure laws, homes may be more available to people and they will have so many options to pick from. You also understand that when people don't have so many options, they decide to settle for what they have. But when you have so many options to pick from, you may not just settle for anything. That's how the value of your property may be impacted on by foreclosure laws. How does foreclosure impact on property law? You may be wondering how can this also affect laws that regulate property transaction. You need to understand that first, once something is happening in society, laws are made towards that direction. So law follows trend. A particular event may occur now that will prompt the legislators to make laws to regulate that particular activity, either to prevent it from happening in subsequent times or to regulate how often those things should happen. If it happens also in the property sector where so many homes are foreclosed, I give you an instance. A state may decide to be taking 10% of the value of a property once it is sold. If that is the case, now their idea is property are usually sold at over 100 million and above within this particular area, and they are sure of getting 10 million naira from each property. But at the end of the day, it happens that houses are now sold at discounted prices, which may now be 60, 70 million, thereby reducing the value they will get from tax. They may be prompted to increasing the tax payable in that area because they need to maintain certain amount, because they have set a target for themselves as well. Okay, this is what I'm going to generate for IGRO for this month or for this year or for the next 5 years. Well, we should be able to generate so amount of money. But because the amount that is now coming from property transaction in form of tax is no longer as much as they are targeted, they may have to increase taxes that are payable on properties within the state. Because they cannot limit it to a particular area, it will have to go around and affect every other person who may be interested in going on with property transaction. Also, they may go on to make laws that makes foreclosure very stiff. The procedure to foreclose anyone will become very stiff. Let's say, for instance, 100 homes were foreclosed in a particular year. When the government sees that, okay, this has become a trend, they may make laws that may make it impossible or almost impossible for you to foreclose any property for redemption. Now, we understand that many courts in Nigeria, they are reluctant also to grant foreclosure. Now, this explains why most people do not go through the route of foreclosure. They rather proceed to sell that property, which the person who is the original owner may still lay claim to a part of the money that may be recovered upon sale of the property. If it is seen that persons are now foreclosing properties, they may make laws that makes it almost impossible. On the other hand, when they now also see that homes are not foreclosed, nothing, the investors or creditors end up losing their monies at the end of the day, they make foreclosure laws very liberal, enabling persons who have given out loans to individuals and corporate entities to foreclose the owners of such property, who are the mortgagors in this instance, from recovering or redeeming their property. If this is the case also, many persons are going to lose their homes. So this is how it impacts on foreclosure. Foreclosure laws impacts on property transaction or property laws within any state. Now, is there a way you can avoid your property from being foreclosed? That's what we'll be looking at. We'll be giving you tips that you can employ to ensure that your property is not foreclosed. Once your property is foreclosed, you no longer have ownership over that property. How do you prevent that? First thing you need to do is to insert arbitration clause in any contract that you are drafting, whether a mortgage or anything, even if it's going to be equitable mortgage. Also put it there. Let it be an arrangement between you and the mortgagee that, okay, there's going to be resort to arbitration if there is anything that happens or there is a default in payment. When once you put that arbitration clause, it may give you an environment, an enabling environment for you to negotiate your way out of having your property foreclosed. Once you are negotiating, you will be able to propose to the person, okay, I'm going to pay this money within this also period, give me more time so that I can pay up. During that negotiation, which you have your own lawyer that will represent you, and the other person also has his own lawyer that is representing him. Once this is the case, you will be able to negotiate your way out of being foreclosed. Another thing you also need to do is to give formal notice. Give formal notice to the mortgagee, that is the lender. Give a notice ahead of time, explaining that, okay, I would have loved to pay this money between now and the deadline, which is 2 months away, but certain circumstances that I found myself in recent time has hindered me from paying that money. Please extend the time within which I can pay up whatever is left to be paid. Now, for you to do this, you must have shown sign of good faith. Let's say you have been consistent from the beginning of the loan. You have been servicing the loan consistently, but at a particular point in time, you have not been forthcoming with the payment. So you give notice, you explain your reasons why you have been unable to pay, and pray the person to grant you short time for you to repay. Where a deadline is 16th of June, for instance, you may ask the person, please give me until August to repay. So when you give formal notice to the person, you have to also put the person on notice, okay, this person actually intends to pay, but events have prevented him. Even if the person is going to argue with you, we will still see reasons with you. Okay, this person has given it a thought that he ought to pay and is willing to pay. So that affects his own psychology and impacts how he will react to you. Not when the person comes at the end of the loan period, you are not telling him, I cannot pay, things have happened. No, that should not be the case. Give formal notice to the person. The person will know you respect that particular institution. Another thing you can also do is to execute a deed ahead of time. Let's say you have looked at everything, you have checked the possibility of you raising money between the time you are in and the time that was given to you as deadline to repay the actual sum that was given to you as loan. What you can do is to execute a deed. Let's say you have a property that is valued at 100 million and the loan you took is 90 million. You can execute a deed of assignment in favor of the mortgagee, the person who gave you that money. You execute a deed ahead of time. Now, there are two things this thing does for you. One, it prevents the person from taking over your property as taking the procedure of foreclosure, which may also cost you some money because you need to put in a defense. So when you do this, it prevents you from going through the route of the court. Then another thing it does for you is it lifts that burden of having your property foreclosed. How it affects you is, once people understand that your property was foreclosed in your previous loan that you took, they may be skeptical in giving you subsequent loans to run your business. No matter how good the business idea you have, once they check your loan history, and they found that property A was foreclosed, you failed to pay, property B was foreclosed, you failed to pay, they may not be willing to give you that loan. But if you execute a deed of assignment, it will now be deemed that you sold that property to the lender, and that will no longer come up again that you defaulted at any point in time. That may also give you room to renegotiate with the person that you took that money from, or the institution that you took the money from. You may be able to get 10 million back from that transaction, or even take subsequent loan, because you know you always come up with good ideas that may save you. Because credit score, in some places they have credit score, they give you grade. Okay, this is how this person has been performing. If your performance is very low, nobody will want to transact any business with you. Other thing you can also do is to conduct short sale. What do we mean by short sale? If your term that was granted to you, let's say 6 years was given to you, and it's just 1 year left, and you have checked everywhere, there is no possibility of you raising money from other sources to repay this loan that you have taken, you can write to the person who gave you that loan, the mortgagee or the financial institution, as you may want to refer to it. You write a notice to that person, please, this property is worth 100 million and what I'm owing you is 80 million. I want to sell this property and I'm going to pay off your money immediately I receive the sum which this person is going to pay, the let's say the intended purchaser. Once it pays me this amount of money, I'll use it first to offset whatever I owe you. Then the financial institution is likely to give consent, but they may give you some conditions that they will be part of the transaction, that the money should come to their account directly upon payment, so they don't have to take steps to recover the amount after the money has gotten to your account. So you need to get consent from the person who gave you, or the institution that gave you the money in the first place. So conduct of short sale enables you to raise money from that same property. You are not going outside the property, you raise money from that same property that you used as collateral, sell it off, pay your debt, and move on with your life, having new apartments based on the amount you have gotten on the property. Now, in conclusion, foreclosure is a legal procedure or judicial process taken by a lender to recover whatever he has given to you in form of loan. And what is recovery at this point in time is the property. He is taking over the property which was given out. And once this is done, your right of redemption is foreclosed, which means you can no longer come back to take over the property or repossess the property. You can no longer come back to be the owner of that property, because ownership of that property has been transferred to that person who gave you the money in the first instance. You should also know that foreclosure laws imparts on property transaction, because once it is property is foreclosed, the value changes, and it also imparts the laws. Policies may be made because of the trend in foreclosure that has been happening in a particular point in time. This is how far we can go today. I hope you have learned one or two things from today's discussion. If you have any questions, you can always come to us, and we'll be ready. I'm more than ready to attend to you. If you have suggestions, if you have comments, we are also available to take them. Follow us on all our social media platforms and get updates on all issues concerning property transaction. I remain Destiny Unuate Ijibo.